43 days. That's how long Marcus had been eating lunch alone in his truck. Not because he had nowhere to go. Not because he was antisocial or strange or broken in any way the world could see. He ate in his truck because the moment he sat in that break room, someone always said something. Look, comment. A quiet kind of cruelty that he'd learned to sidestep without losing his footing. Every day at 12:15, he backed his rusted Navy Silverado into the far corner of the company parking lot. Same spot, second row, under the oak tree that lost its leaves in October and never quite got them back. He'd unwrap a sandwich he made at home. Turkey on wheat, a small bag of baby carrots, thermos of black coffee. He'd eat and watch the pigeons on the loading dock. Simple, quiet, invisible. The other guys at the facility never wondered about him too long. He wore the same gray Henley most days. His boots were steel-toed and scuffed at the toe cap. He didn't complain, didn't brag, signed his forms and moved on. If anything stood out, it was that he never complained. Not once, even when the loads were heaviest or the overtime ran longest. But Lily noticed. She was 7. She had 2 missing front teeth and an opinion about everything. And every morning when he dropped her at school, she pressed her face against the truck window and watched him drive away until she couldn't see him anymore. He knew because the crossing guard told him. Every single morning. Same window. Same expression. She was the reason he kept showing up. The reason none of the rest of it mattered. And she had no idea, none at all, what was quietly circling her father from a distance. On the 43rd day, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot. Then another. Then 4 more. They parked in a line along the far fence. Engines off, windows down exactly 2 inches. No logos. No markings. No one got out. They just waited. Marcus looked at them from behind his thermos. He took one slow sip of coffee. And he didn't move. His name was Marcus. He'd left a life 3 years ago that he never talked about, moved to a mid-sized Ohio city with a first-floor apartment, a custody arrangement that gave him Lily full-time, and a warehouse job at a food distribution facility that paid him $18.40 an hour. He wasn't ashamed of the job. He was grateful for it. He woke at 5:15 every morning, packed Lily's lunch first, then his own, walked her to school at 7:45, and was clocked in before 8:30. The divorce had cost him most of what he'd accumulated. The apartment had 1 couch and 2 beds. He'd given Lily the bigger room. Her walls had glow-in-the-dark star stickers on them. He'd put them up himself on a Sunday afternoon while she directed him from the doorway with the gravity of an architect. He painted her ceiling dark blue so the stars would show better. He lived in the other room with a lamp, a paperback, and a photograph he kept face down on the nightstand. No one asked about the photograph. At work, Marcus moved faster than anyone expected. Not frantically, measured. Methodical. He loaded a full pallet in the time it took most of the crew to finish a third of one. The floor manager, a barrel-chested man named Vic, had watched him for 2 weeks before saying anything about it. "You do inventory control in a past life or something?" Vic had asked, not looking up from his clipboard. "Something like that," Marcus said. That was the only version of the story anyone got. On Tuesdays, Marcus picked Lily up from school early for her orthodontic check, the preparatory visits before her braces, which would run about $4,200 out of pocket after insurance, which Marcus was already setting aside for in a jar on top of the refrigerator. He'd been putting in $40 every Friday for 11 months. Lily had no idea about the jar. She thought they were saving for a trip to the aquarium. On one Tuesday, she reached up and took his hand as they walked through the parking lot, swinging their arms once without thinking about it, the way children do when they're happy and the moment hasn't asked them to be careful yet. Marcus looked straight ahead. His jaw moved once. He kept walking. He kept her hand. In the break room that week, someone had pinned a printed list on the bulletin board. Overtime volunteers. The facility was short-staffed. 3 drivers out sick. A backlog building from a system error. The hours were brutal. Most guys had passed on it. The bonus was real, but the conditions were bad enough that nobody signed up for the full week. Marcus signed up for all 5 days. He wrote his name in small, even letters. Nobody asked why. Word count, 453. Adjusted for act length, continuing below. He needed $340 more for Lily's jar. He didn't say that either. The second week of November brought the kind of cold that finds the gaps in your jacket. Marcus was loading a double run on Thursday morning when he noticed the kid. Danny, 19 years old, 3 weeks on the job, sitting on a crate near the loading bay with his hands between his knees. Not sick. Not tired. Something else. Marcus set down his clipboard. "You good?" he said. "Yeah," Danny said. Then, "No. My mom's car got towed. She's working a double at the hospital and she can't pay the impound until Friday and—" He stopped. His face tightened. Marcus looked at him for a moment. "How much?" "What?" "The impound fee." "How much?" Danny stared. $340, he said quietly. "But I can't ask you to." "You didn't ask," Marcus said. He pulled out his wallet. He counted it carefully. He had $340 in cash. He'd been carrying it for 11 days, waiting for his next Friday drop into the jar. He handed it to Danny in a single movement, without ceremony, without making it a moment. "Marcus, man, I'll pay you back, I swear." "Monday," Marcus said simply. "Get back to work." He walked back to his station and finished the run. He didn't think about the jar again until he got home that night, and Lily was at the table with her homework, and she looked up and said, "Daddy, when do we go see the fish?" And he said, "Soon, baby. Soon." And he smiled like it didn't cost him anything. He went to his room and did the math. He was $340 behind now. He'd need to shift something. Maybe delay the dental prep visit by 1 cycle. Maybe pick up another Saturday shift. He was still doing the math when his phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. No name. No area code he recognized. It read, "We need to speak with you. Not by phone. Time sensitive. TW. Marcus looked at the screen for a long moment. He put the phone face down on the nightstand next to the photograph. In the morning, he got up and made Lily's lunch first. The texts came 3 more times over the following week. Same initials. Different phrasing. Same tone, not threatening. Not casual. Something else. Formal. Measured. Careful. As though written by someone who had been trained to say exactly what was necessary and nothing more. He didn't reply to any of them. On the Thursday of that week, Vic called him into the office mid-shift. The floor manager's expression was unusual. Not angry, not annoyed. Something closer to uncomfortable. "Had a visitor this morning," Vic said. "Before your shift. Guy in a nice coat. Didn't say his name." Marcus said nothing. "He asked about you," Vic said. "How long you'd been here. What your attendance looked like. Whether you'd had any." Vic paused, choosing words. "Any incidents." "What did you tell him?" "The truth." Vic leaned back. "That you're the best worker I've had in 4 years and I don't know a thing about your life before you showed up." Marcus held his gaze for a moment. "Thanks, Vic." He went back to the floor. But that afternoon, when he pulled into the school pickup line, he sat with the engine idling a beat longer than usual, scanning the street, counting the cars. A gray sedan sat half a block down, engine running, parked at a meter that had expired. He watched it. It didn't move. When Lily climbed into the back seat with her backpack and immediately started telling him about a disagreement with her best friend involving a pencil case and alleged theft, Marcus pulled into traffic smoothly. He didn't look back. But he also didn't stop watching. The notice came on a Friday. Not a text this time. A physical letter, slid under his apartment door overnight. No postmark. No return address. Printed on plain white stock with a single paragraph of legal language that Marcus read standing at the kitchen counter in the gray 5 a.m. light before Lily woke up. It was from the facility's parent corporation. Restructuring. His position was being eliminated. Effective in 14 days. He read it twice. He folded it. Put it in the utility drawer under the flashlight batteries. He made coffee. He made Lily's lunch. Turkey on wheat. Baby carrots. He left the small chocolate he always tucked into the corner of her lunchbox. He didn't tell her. She came in at 6:45 wearing mismatched socks and hair she tried to do herself, and he fixed her left braid at the kitchen table while she ate her cereal, and she talked about a book her teacher was reading aloud about a kid who runs away, and whether running away was brave or just scared, and whether those were the same thing. Marcus said, "Sometimes the bravest thing is staying." She considered this. "Yeah," she said. "But sometimes staying is just scared of leaving." He looked at her for a long second. "When did you get this smart?" he said. She shrugged, ate her cereal. At work that day, 3 of the 5 men on his shift didn't know yet. The supervisor hadn't posted the notices widely. Marcus worked his full shift, loaded every pallet, filed his end-of-day forms without a word. He drove home. He did the math again. Savings, $1,840. The braces jar had $820 in it now. His emergency cushion was $1,100. His rent was $940. His car insurance was due in 18 days. He sat in the truck in the parking lot and stared at the steering wheel. That was the first blow. The second came Monday. Danny hadn't paid him back. Not because he was a bad kid. Because Danny had been terminated in the same restructuring and had stopped answering his phone, and Marcus didn't blame him, but the $340 was gone and the math was now worse. That afternoon Marcus got a voicemail. Unknown number. Mill voice. Professional. Measured. "Mr. Marcus Devereaux, we understand you haven't been responding to communications. We want to be direct with you. This is not a threat. This is a request. There are people who want to make sure you and your daughter are taken care of. You have our number. We hope you'll use it." He sat with the voicemail for a while. He played it again. Then he deleted it. He was not the kind of man who asked for help. He hadn't been built that way. He'd been trained for years in environments where needing something made you a liability and revealing vulnerability was something you did privately, at 3 a.m. in the dark with no witnesses. He wasn't going back to that world. He wouldn't call. He was still certain of that on Wednesday morning. Then the school called. Not an emergency. Lily was fine. She was sitting in the nurse's room because she'd tripped on the playground and hit her knee on the blacktop, and it needed a few butterfly stitches, and a parent had to come pick her up. He left work immediately. He drove to the school. He walked down the hallway at a pace that a teacher stopped to watch. He pushed open the nurse's door, and Lily was sitting on the examination table in her grass-stained leggings, holding her knee with both hands, still trying not to cry. She looked up. The moment she saw him, she started crying. Not from the pain. Just from relief. He sat next to her on the examination table, and she leaned into him, and he put his arm around her, and she shook once, twice, and then was still. He held her. He looked at the ceiling. The braces. The rent. 14 days. The $340 gone. The voicemails unanswered. He sat there and he held his daughter, and the stillness inside him was not peace. It was a man carrying more weight than anyone in that building knew, quietly, without a single sound. It was the following Monday. Marcus ate his lunch in the truck. 47th day now, not that he was counting. Turkey on wheat, the last carrots from a bag that needed replacing, coffee that had gone slightly cold. He watched the parking lot the way he always watched things. Without urgency, without emotion. Just awareness. The 6 black SUVs arrived at 12:22. They didn't rush. They entered in formation, 2 in front, 2 flanking, 2 trailing, and parked along the far fence in a single deliberate line. Tinted windows. Government plates. The kind of vehicles that didn't need logos to announce what they were. Marcus set down his coffee. He did not move. A man in a dark suit got out of the second vehicle and walked toward the truck. Not hurrying. Not hesitating. He was in his early 60s, silver at the temples, the posture of a man who had spent a significant portion of his life expecting others to stand when he entered the room. He stopped beside the driver's window. Marcus rolled it down. The man looked at him for a long moment. His expression was professional. And then something happened in it. A careful rearrangement, like a man who had held a hypothesis for months and was only now seeing the proof. "You're a hard man to find, Commander," the man said quietly. Behind him, 3 other suited individuals had exited the vehicles. One was on a phone. One held a folder. One stood very still, watching the perimeter. Inside the building, Vic happened to be walking out the employee entrance with a coffee when he saw the scene. He stopped. He stared. He counted the black SUVs slowly. 1 to 6. He looked at Marcus's rusted Silverado at the center of it all. At the man in the suit. At Marcus, who had rolled down his window and was now leaning slightly on the door the way he might lean on a fence post on a Sunday afternoon. Relaxed. Unmoved. Vic had not moved either. He couldn't explain the feeling in his chest. Not fear exactly. Something closer to the feeling you get when you realize you've been wrong about something for a long time, and the wrongness wasn't mean, just enormous. Commander Devereaux, the man said again. Admiral Reeves sends his regards. He wanted me to tell you personally, the review is complete. The investigation is closed. Your record has been restored. Fully and formally. Marcus said nothing for a moment. A pigeon landed on the loading dock. How's the Admiral? Marcus said. The man in the suit blinked once. He's well, sir. Good. Marcus looked at his coffee. Good to hear. The man reached into the inner pocket of his jacket and produced a slim envelope. Held it at the window. Your reinstatement documentation. Your benefits backdated. And, he paused, choosing his words with the precision of a man who had rehearsed them several times. A formal written apology from the department for the circumstances that led to your departure. Marcus looked at the envelope. He took it. He held it in one hand without opening it. Vic, from 30 feet away, had not blinked in some time. Another of the suited individuals, a younger woman, dark blazer, earpiece, expression of someone who had been briefed thoroughly and was now encountering something that no briefing had fully captured, was looking at Marcus's truck. At the worn seats, the thermos, at the half-eaten sandwich on the center console. Her expression shifted in a way she didn't try to conceal. It was the look of someone doing arithmetic in their head about a man who could have called at any moment and changed everything, and had chosen not to. Her eyes moved to the stuffed rabbit on the back seat. Gray. One ear slightly bent. She had not been told about the daughter. Nobody at the facility had been. She looked back at Marcus. There's also the matter of the back compensation, her colleague was saying. 4 years, Commander. That calculation comes to. I'll look at the paperwork, Marcus said. He wasn't dismissive. He wasn't cold. He spoke the way he'd been trained to speak in high-pressure rooms, with the particular calm of a man who had learned that composure under duress was its own kind of authority. He finished his coffee. He set the envelope on the passenger seat beside his empty carrot bag. I have to get back to work, he said. I'm on the clock until 5. The man in the suit looked at him, looked at the facility, looked back at Marcus. Yes, sir, he said. It came out almost automatically. The instinctive formality of a man reverting to the register he'd been using around this man, apparently, for most of his adult career. Marcus rolled the window up. He finished his sandwich. The 6 SUVs waited. Vic was still standing at the employee entrance, coffee cold in his hand, looking at a man he'd worked alongside for almost a year and realizing he had not, in fact, known anything about him at all. That Friday, Marcus picked Lily up from school. She climbed in with her backpack and her lunchbox and her 2 missing front teeth and her opinion about everything, and she said, Daddy, are we going to the aquarium soon? Marcus looked at her in the rear-view mirror for a moment. Yeah, he said. Yeah. Sooner than you think. She pressed her face against the window like she always did. He pulled into traffic. He did not look back. 3 months later, Marcus still drives a truck. Not the same truck. The Silverado finally went. One too many mornings arguing with the ignition. The new one is navy blue, a year old, and he paid for it in cash. No ceremony. No announcement. He bought Lily a gift card to the aquarium gift shop for when they went, which they did on a Saturday in February when the penguin exhibit was running, and she wore her good coat and pressed her face against every single tank. He still packs his own lunch. Turkey on wheat, baby carrots, black coffee in the same thermos. He doesn't eat it alone anymore. He has an office now, one he rarely uses. He still prefers the truck. The glow-in-the-dark stars are still on Lily's ceiling. He never took them down, not even when they moved to the new apartment with the second bathroom and the kitchen with actual counter space. She asked him to leave them. He left them. The photograph is no longer face down on the nightstand. The braces start in April. She's already named her orthodontist Dr. Crunch. There is something this story asks us to sit with. Not the happy ending but the quiet in the middle. The 47 lunches alone in a parking lot. The $340 handed off without a moment's hesitation to a kid who needed it. The voicemails deleted, not from stubbornness, but from a man's deeply held belief that the one thing he owned completely was his choice to stand or kneel. No title, no rank, no back pay. Just the next morning. Just Lily's lunch. Just the glow-in-the-dark stars. Here is the question this story leaves you with. If the world had already taken everything from you, your rank, your reputation, your past, and then offered it all back, would the return of what you'd lost change who you'd become without it? There's no clean answer. There never is. That's why it matters. If this story moved you, like and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to Solo Dad Stories for more stories about strength, sacrifice, and second chances.